Government must closely monitor mining in our country. There is a need to ensure strict enforcement of the provisions of the Philippine Mining Act of 1995, particularly those for environmental protection and rehabilitation. On this note, I've filed a resolution looking into the state of compliance of existing agencies of exploration permits and contractors under mineral agreements to safety and environmental protection. In the matter of water, we recently saw the serious dangers of a prolonged drought. But the law has been in place since 1989, almost 20 years ago, for the collection of rainwater and for protection of springs so that adequate potable water is made available to every barangay. Have we again complied with this law? I am hereby filing a resolution to inquire into the level of compliance with this law enacted 20 years ago. And then again, without necessarily pinpointing blame and finding fault, proceed with helping the Public Works Department and local communities, especially in areas that are critically and perennially water short, to establish cisterns and rainwater collection receptacles. The DENR and the DPWH must also begin to think of these simple and basic mechanisms in the review and revision of the building code and as a conditionality in the Environmental Compliance Certificate, or the ECC. In the matter of the sea, yes, we are the center of marine biodiversity or wealth on Earth, the Amazon of the seas, so to speak. The sooner we understand that, the sooner we'll begin to protect and to restore it. And this comes no less from Dr. Kent Carpenter, who did a study for the United Nations, FAO. In Chinese, the character for crisis represents two other characters, danger and opportunity. We have seen that the Visayan Sea, the geographic epicenter of marine wealth on Earth, is now in crisis. To the great honor and pride of the Philippines, Mr. President, my dear colleagues, the valiant efforts of two men to protect the Visayan Sea from illegal and destructive fishing practices was recently featured in a full-length documentary in the prestigious British Broadcasting Corporation, or BBC, and beamed several times to some 130 countries around the world. Perhaps this is the only time that our country's efforts to protect its natural wealth has been featured in a positive light. For once, the do-gooders and those who mean well for the country has been featured around the world. But these men have paid a high price for it, Mr. President, not in terms of money, but in terms of their lives. One of them, Jojo de la Victoria, paid the ultimate price for their advocacy. On April 12, 2006, as he was entering his house in Cebu after work, he was shot 4 times with a .45 caliber and died. But the now world-famous Visayan Sea Squadron, to which he belonged, is undaunted. We've dedicated NBI operatives from Region 7 and volunteer fishermen. They achieved the impossible by eliminating illegal fishing in significant parts of the Visayan Sea. These ordinary men and women have made it their life's mission to protect and to restore this body of water of unparalleled wealth. In the area of solid waste, Mr. President, we have a law. I authored that on January 2001, the first law signed by then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, right after, in fact on January 20, right after she assumed office. We have a law. Yet the implementation and enforcement has been very wanting. We will inquire from the DENR and from the local government units why this is so. We will not seek to find fault, Mr. President. Instead, we will see how we can help them strengthen their efforts to comply with the law. In this regard, I would like to make mention of a recent commendable initiative of the Office of the Ombudsman and the Law of Nature Foundation to conduct an environmental compliance assessment and audit of compliance with the basic environmental laws, beginning with the Solid Waste Management Law. We commend the Law of Nature Foundation and the Office of the Ombudsman. We commend them and express to them our fullest support to this initiative. We must also inquire, Mr. President, into the state and implementation of Republic Act number 8749, for which our dear Senator Honasan, an advocate of the environment, had so painstakingly defended on the floor way back in 1999. This is the Clean Air Act, when he was chairman of the Environment Committee. This law has provisions which, if fully implemented, would have improved the air quality of our country during the last 8 years. Compliance with the tightened standards on industrial emissions and motor vehicle exhaust and the encouragement of citizens' arrest must be monitored and assessed. We must inquire also into the implementation of Republic Act number 6716, otherwise known as the Rainwater and the Spring Development Act of 1989. Why has the DPWH not constructed wells and rainwater collectors, developed springs, and rehabilitated existing water wells in all barangays during the last 18 years? If it had, the DPWH would have mitigated the effect of the recent dry spell, which caused an estimated 600 million to 1 billion pesos loss to our country. I also urge, Mr. President, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to immediately undertake efforts to declare the Visayan Sea as a protected area. It is admittedly an ambitious, difficult project because the area is a sea surrounded on 3 sides by the islands of the Visayas, bounded on the north by Masbate, on the east by Leyte, on the south by Cebu and Negros, on the west by Panay, connected to the Sibuyan Sea, the Samar Sea, the Camotes Sea, the Bohol Sea, and the Sulu Sea. As the stewards of this crown jewel of the Earth's natural resources and a common heritage of humankind, we must ensure its protection. Mr. President, the state of the Philippine environment has deteriorated from a gloomy, silent spring, as Rachel Carson said in a book I read when I was in grade school, into the next stage, an apocalyptic one. All around us, we are witnessing the birth of death, the refusal of life forms to flourish and to thrive, the black curtains that hang over former enclaves of biodiversity. Only after the last tree has been felled, the last river poisoned, and the last fish caught, will man ever know that he cannot eat money. We have to reverse the onslaught to life, to usher in an environmental springtime, the surge of new life forms, the explosion of forested mountains, clean air, clear rivers, and bountiful seas. Let it be said, dear colleagues and Mr. President, that during our watch, while gifted with intelligence and insight, while gifted with privilege and position, with the wealth of wisdom and the freedom and power of the human will, let it be said that in our time and during our watch, we did our share. And maybe, just maybe, we will make a little difference. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Have a good day.